Good morning, students.
Morning, ma'am.
How was the paper, engineering physics paper?
It was good, ma'am.
Good. And what about marks? Have you seen your marks or marks were not visible?
Not declared, ma'am.
Okay. So in this lecture, I'm waiting that if more students gets joined, I'll show you your marks. Okay. So we'll wait for 1 minute. Okay, so basically, if we talk about our syllabus, we have completed unit number 4, and in unit number 5, some of the portion is already conducted by Professor Tuksha sir. He has completed the superconductivity and the nanotechnology portion from unit number 5. And in last Friday's lecture, Ghodke sir has covered fiber optics and holography. So basically 50% syllabus from unit number 5 is over, and 50% syllabus from unit number 6 is over. Now in today's lecture, we people are going to talk about the remaining contents of unit number 5, that are nothing but the semiconductors and magnetic materials. Okay, so 18 students have joined, 16 I think. So quickly I'll show you the marks, just a second. Is this hope you screen is visible to all of you? You people can see the marks of today's exam. Okay, so just a second. Now I think it is quite visible. Okay, so if you want to note down your marks, you may. What I have seen, for roll number 2, Vaibhav Pandit, and one more roll number is there, just a second, Akanksha Totewad, roll number 23. Okay, I
Yes,
just
ma'am.
your
No,
marks are not visible. It is showing obtained marks 0. So is there any problem from your side? Have you given the exam?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. Have you submitted the exam on a given time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What about Vaibhav? Vaibhav Pandit, roll number 2. Okay. I think he is not present. Okay, so you people may note down your marks. These are your chemistry 2 marks. Okay. So whoever is the friend of Vaibhav, ask him that he should call me, so that I'll get to know that what has happened at his end. Because here you can see for Vaibhav and for Akanksha, marks are 0. So I need to check into the system. Okay. So this is about your marks. Is there any problem in the exam? If you feel some confusion or some problem with respect to the questions asked in the exam, you may ask. Otherwise, we are going to move towards today's topic. Is there any
Ma'am, I
problem?
was missed out in last. Can you please answer?
Yes, Shakib and Pawan. One by one you may ask.
Ma'am, I was having doubt in last question.
Last means what? Which question?
Cyclotron is used to accelerate which type of particle?
It is basically used to accelerate positively charged particles. So positively is the correct answer.
Ma'am, but mainly it is mentioned in means content whatever you have provided in that it is written charged particle. And charged particle mainly comprises of positively or charged and negatively charged particles
No,
also.
but in while conducting a lecture, I have specifically mentioned and I have asked. I remember that I have asked you people to note down that whatever are the cyclotrons, they are basically used to accelerate positively charged particles. Okay, because
Ma'am,
if you
whatever
want to
modification is done now in that negatively charged particle can be also accelerated.
no, for if you want to have the acceleration of negatively charged particles, then there are other accelerators known as betatron. So with the help of betatron, you can accelerate negatively charged particles. And the example that we have taken in the lecture, that was related to a proton. Okay, so proton is positively charged, so it is a means logical questions that if I have mentioned the proton while explaining the things, means obviously the cyclotron is used to accelerate positively charged particles. So positively charged particles is the correct answer.
Okay, ma'am.
Is there any other doubt, Pawan?
Ma'am, can you provide answers of the questions, please? Answer key.
Yeah, of course. Maybe today evening or up to Saturday, I'll give you the mark sheet and the answer key. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Is it
Okay.
no problem? Okay. So that was related to exam. Never get confused in the contents. Read the question carefully always. And if you feel some doubt, then skip that question for a while. And whenever all answers are finished, then you can go towards that confusing questions. Okay. So if your final examination is in the online mode, then of course you have to be care, because today I have seen most of the students that I'm expecting that they will get out of marks, they have not get that marks. So maybe some confusion is there from your side, so don't get confused, think carefully and then give the answers. Okay, so as I have said, in unit number 5, there are 4 sections. One is superconductivity, then semiconductors, then nanotechnology and magnetic materials. So already 2 portions are covered. Now we have to talk about the remaining portion, that is nothing but the semiconductors and the magnetic materials. So basically in today's lecture, we are going to talk about the semiconductor things. What are the semiconductors, what are the types of semiconductors, where semiconductors can be used, that will be the portion for today's discussion. Okay, so
मैम
yes.
मैम एक बार फिर से मार्क्स शो कर दोगे?
Okay, just a second, just a second. Okay, so whatever is your roll number, you can note down your marks. Okay, so hope roll number 1 to 10 have noted their marks. Now I'll scroll, and roll number 11 to 23 may see their marks. Okay. Remaining roll numbers can get their marks now.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so today's topic is the semiconductors. As I said, we have to see what are the semiconductors and basically what is the classification of semiconductors. So the contents that are there in your syllabus, already you people are having much knowledge about this particular topic, and even while having the discussion related to Zener diode, we have already seen what are the semiconductors, what are semiconducting devices and all that things. So to start our discussion, I would like to ask you people, what do you know related to the term provided on the screen, that is semiconductor. So what knowledge you are having related to this particular word? What are semiconductors? Yes. Anybody?
Ma'am, the substances which have conductivity between metals and insulator. Sorry, conductors and insulator.
Yes. The materials, basically here we are going to talk about the conductivity, electrical conductivity. Okay. So the materials which are having their electrical conductivity in between the conductors and insulators are termed as the semiconductors. Okay. So if we are talking about, if we are saying that these are the particularly some class of materials, so can you mention what are the materials which shows semiconducting nature? Examples of semiconductors. Yes.
Germanium, silicon, arsenic.
Yes. Basically, there are two materials which are known as the semiconductors, that are nothing but the germanium and silicon. Okay. Both are having 4 electrons in their valence shell. Okay. So these are the semiconductors, we can say. So as we are saying, of course, whatever are the silicon and germanium, they will have their electrical conductivity in between the conductors and insulators. Okay, so semiconductors are the materials whose electrical properties lie in between conductors and insulators, and as you people have mentioned, the examples are given as silicon and germanium. Okay, so how this classification is done in case of the conductor, semiconductor and insulator? So the answer is energy band gap. With the help of energy band gap, we can differentiate in between the conductors, semiconductors and insulators. In each case, there will be a different observation as per as energy band gap is concerned. Already you people have seen one experiment related to the energy band gap determination. So in order to recall all that things, I would like to ask you, what is energy band gap? What is energy band gap?
Ma'am, it is the gap between the conduction band and the valence band.
Yes.
It is the energy gap in between the conduction band and valence band. So here on the screen you can see one image. In that one image it is mentioned, the caption is energy band gap or energy band diagram of metals. Basically we know whatever are the metals, they falls in the category of conductors. They are the good conductors of electricity. So here the case related to metals is provided. So here you can see whatever is the brown colored portion, that is nothing but say valence band, and this upper block, vacant block, is nothing but say conduction band. Okay, so if monovalent metals are there, then how will be the energy band diagram that is provided over here? So whatever is the conduction band, that is in contact with the valence band. Okay, so there is no any gap present in between conduction band and valence band. Energy band gap is having the 0 value. They are on each other, they are in particularly closed contact with each other. So that is the case of monovalent metals, and here the case of divalent metals is provided. So whatever is the conduction band, that is overlapped on the valence band. So here you can see this much portion is overlapped over here. So these are the cases of say conductors. So in conductors there will be no any gap in valence band or conduction band, or if or in most of the cases overlapping of both the bands will be observed. Now we people know that in a normal condition whatever are the valence electrons, they try to be in this valence band. Okay, so whatever are the valence electrons, they will be in the valence band. In order to have conductivity through the material, they should go to the conduction band. Okay, so we need to have the movement of valence electrons from valence band to conduction band in order to get the conductivity. And as you can see in the case of metals, as there is no any gap or overlapping is there, whatever are the valence electrons, they can easily go to the conduction band, and of course conduction will be possible through the metals or through the conductors. So this is the case, as there is a easy movement of valence electrons from valence band to conduction band, we can get high amount of conductivity through these kind of materials. Okay, so this is the case of metals or conductors. If we see the energy band diagram for the semiconductors and insulators, then you can see the difference. In case of conductors, we have seen the overlapping is there, or there is a close contact of valence band and conduction band. In case of semiconductors, you can see a little bit gap is present, so that gap is 2 to 3 electron volt, and in case of insulators a huge gap is observed. Okay, and these are the reasons due to this high energy band gap. In case of insulators there will not be any conduction, because valence electrons can't reach to the conduction band, and that's why we say there is no electrical conductivity through the insulators. Whereas you can see in case of semiconductors a gap is present. Of course gap is present, there is no overlapping or any closed contact of conduction band and valence band, but whatever is the gap, that can be overcome. In order to overcome the energy band gap in semiconductors, you people have already seen what to do. In case of that practical related to energy band gap, you have seen by applying temperature or by performing the doping process, you can achieve the conduction through the semiconductors. Basically at room temperature you might see that whatever are the semiconductors, they act as insulators. Okay, only at high temperature we can have the conductivity through semiconductors, or by the process of doping, conductivity will be get in case of semiconductors. Okay, so this is related to energy band diagram, and with the help of energy band gap we can differentiate in between conductors, then semiconductors and insulators. Okay, so if we talk about the classification of semiconductors, then of course semiconductors are broadly divided into two categories, that are nothing but the extrinsic semiconductors and intrinsic semiconductors. So now I would like to ask you people, what do you know related to the word intrinsic and what are the extrinsic semiconductor?
Ma'am, intrinsic means the pure semiconductor which conduct on heating are known as intrinsic.
Okay, what about extrinsic?
The impure semiconductor which conduct.
Okay. Okay, whatever is said by Sanika, it is absolutely correct. Semiconductors are broadly divided into two types: intrinsic semiconductor, extrinsic semiconductor. As you can see, in case of intrinsic semiconductor, examples are provided: germanium and silicon. Means whatever are the pure semiconductors at room temperature, as we know, they don't conduct any electricity. So pure form semiconductors, they are termed as intrinsic semiconductor. Okay, Now, in order to achieve conductivity through semiconductors, we may have the doping process. So, doping means adding impurity to pure semiconductors. We know what are the pure semiconductors: silicon and germanium. So, if we add some impurities to this silicon and germanium, then whatever semiconductor will get formed, that will be known as extrinsic semiconductor. Okay, so pure semiconductors, they are known as intrinsic semiconductor. If we do the doping, then whatever are the semiconductors formed, they are known as extrinsic semiconductor. Now this extrinsic semiconductor, they are again divided into two types. One is p-type semiconductor, another one is n-type semiconductor. As we are saying, we may add impurity to the pure semiconductors. Now there are two categories of impurities. Either you can add trivalent impurity or you can add pentavalent impurity. Now you people tell me, what do you mean by trivalent impurity and what is pentavalent impurity?
Trivalent impurity is the which in the outer shell of the electron we have three electron and one is whole, and in n-type we have 5 electrons and one is extra.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Whatever is said by Pawan is correct 90%, because p-type are the materials, or trivalent impurity we can say to some materials which are having 3 electrons in their valence shell. Okay, trivalent impurity means the materials who are having 3 electrons in their valence shell. There is no any hole as a separate material. Okay, whenever that trivalent impurity will get associated with pure semiconductor, then there will be a formation of hole. As a separate material, trivalent impurity means the material which is having 3 electrons in their valence shell. Any example that you know, the materials which are having the 3 electrons in
मॅम
their
ट्रॅव्हलन्सचं सांगायचं आहे का?
yes,
ॲल्युमिनियम.
aluminium. So aluminium is the material which you can use as a trivalent impurity. And of course, as like trivalent impurity, we can say about pentavalent impurity as the materials which are having 5 electrons in their valence shell. The example that you people know is say phosphorus. So phosphorus is the material which is having 5 electrons in their valence shell, and that can be used to form the extrinsic semiconductor. Okay, so in case of p-type, if you want to have the p-type material, then you may add trivalent impurity to the pure semiconductors, and if you want to form a n-type material, then you can add pentavalent impurity to the pure semiconductor. That may be a silicon, that may be a germanium, no problem, you can have any combination. Okay, so by adding impurities you can have the generation of p-type and n-type semiconductors. Now how to perform this particular activity? So basically to add the impurities, basically you need to have the silicon or germanium wafer or platform, and on that say aluminium or phosphorus, whatever is the impurity, that impurity is flown. The air mixture of that particular impurity is flown over the silicon or germanium platform, and then having the plasma condition in particular chamber, you can have this kind of diffusion. So such kind of experiments can be done with some sophisticated instrument. I don't remember the exact name of that machine, but that machine is available at the IIT Bombay. Only in, if we talk about the Maharashtra region, then only IIT Bombay is having such kind of facility where you can have, or where you can perform the doping process. Okay, so to have the doping, of course you need to have the either p-type impurity or n-type impurity, that is based upon your application. So can you people tell what happens exactly when you insert trivalent impurity into the pure semiconductor? Of course, we have seen by adding impurities one can get the uh, extrinsic semiconductor, but what happens over there while having the generation of p-type? Yes, Sanika?
When we add trivalent impurities, there is a missing of one electron from one covalent bond from each indium atom. Means the absence of one electron leaves a gap or a hole which is called as hole. Means
Yes, whenever we add trivalent impurity to say pure silicon, as we know silicon is having 4 electrons in its valence shell. Trivalent impurity say aluminium, it is having 3 electrons in valence shell. So 3 electrons from aluminium and 4 electrons of that silicon, of course they will try to have some kinds of bond in between them. So 3 electron with 3 electron of silicon will have the bonding. 1 electron from silicon, he is not having any pair. So whatever is the absence, that absence is treated as a whole. Okay, so that at that moment there is a generation of hole. Hole means absence of electron. Okay, so that hole will be associated with the 4th electron of that silicon. Now whatever is the vacancy, so another electron from that combination will try to fill that vacancy, and of course the electron from another bond will try to occupy that position. Okay, so that position will get occupied, but from where the electron has reached to fill this vacancy, at that point there will be generation of one hole because absence of electron is there. So that absence of electron will try to be occupied by another electron present in the structure. Of course, we are talking about the 3-dimensional structure. So entire crystal lattice will have that kind of procedure. So one hole is occupied by another electron. So that electron will create another hole. So that hole is occupied by another electron. While having that movement, another hole is created over there. So like this, due to addition of impurity, number of holes will get created over there, and due to that there will be movement of the charge carriers. Here whatever is the movement, that movement is of the holes. Holes are nothing but the positively charged carriers, and that's why in case of p-type semiconductors you can say whatever are the charge carriers, that charge carriers are nothing but the holes. Okay, actually electron is moving, but what we are seeing that the hole is getting displaced. Okay, so that's why it is said that in case of p-type semiconductors, holes are the majority charge carriers. Now if we talk about the n-type material, then what will be the case? Whatever we have talked about p-type material, similar procedure will be there in n-type semiconductor. I want answer from other students, Sanika, Pavan, Akib. You don't give any answer. I want answer from other students. Yes. Who will give the answer? What will happen in case of n-type semiconductors? What will be the charge carriers? How will be the bonding in case of pentavalent impurity? Other than Pavan, Sanika and Akib, anyone can give the answer.
Ma'am, majority charge carriers are electron.
Majority charge carriers are the electrons. Here we know in case of pentavalent impurity, pentavalent means 5 electrons in the valence shell. Silicon or germanium, they are having the 4 electrons. So one electron with another electron, such that we can have the 4 combinations. Okay, and one electron from the pentavalent impurity will be a free electron. So that free electron will move into the lattice. Okay, and due to the movement of charge carrier, we know there will be generation of current. So like this, by adding more amount of impurities, yes, one electron will be extra. Sayed is saying that is correct, and that is treated as a free electron. Okay, so that free electron can easily break the bond. It get released from the material, and it moves into the entire crystal lattice, and that movement is responsible to produce the current in case of n-type semiconductor. So if you add more amount of pentavalent impurity, of course more number of free electrons will be there, and that free electrons will generate high amount of current. So like this, by adding impurities, we can have the conduction through the material. Here in case of p-type material, charge carriers are the holes, or they are treated as a positively charged carriers, positive charge carriers. In case of n-type semiconductors, electrons are the charge carriers, and we know electrons are having negative charge. So negatively charged carriers will be in the case of n-type material, positively charged carriers will be there in case of p-type material. Okay. So that is the classification of semiconductor. So already we have seen what are the semiconductors, intrinsic semiconductors and extrinsic semiconductors. Okay, so this theory we will skip. So in a nutshell, whatever we have talked about, so intrinsic semiconductor, pure silicon can be termed as a intrinsic semiconductors. There will be a particular gap in case of intrinsic semiconductors, and of course at room temperature they will act as insulators. In case of extrinsic semiconductor that are related to n-type, you can see a free electron is there. Here in this case, arsenic impurity is added to the pure semiconductor, and as we know, arsenic is a pentavalent material. It is having free electron. 4 electrons of that arsenic are getting combined with 4 electrons of the silicon, and 1 electron is responsible to have the free movement into the crystal lattice. Okay, so that will create conductivity in case of n-type semiconductor. Okay, so this is responsible to have generation of extrinsic n-type semiconductor. Okay, and here you can see in case of p-type semiconductor, here the gallium impurity is added to the pure silicon, which creates one hole, and here hole are the majority charge carriers. Basically when we talk about any case of semiconductors, so the middle position of conduction band and valence band is termed as the Fermi level. Okay, so here you can see, if this is the conduction band, this is the valence band, then the middle portion of that two bands is termed as the Fermi level, which is denoted with the letter EF. Okay, so in case of extrinsic semiconductor, that Fermi level is moved towards the conduction band, and that is created as a donor state. In case of p-type semiconductors, that Fermi level is shifted towards the valence band, and that is termed as the acceptor state. Okay, so that is the differentiation in between the intrinsic semiconductor, n-type semiconductor and p-type semiconductor. Is there any doubt up to this?
No, ma'am.
No.
So this is the general discussion related to the semiconductors. Now we have to understand the property of semiconductor. Of course, there are various kinds of properties which we can observe in semiconductors. Out of that, we are going to talk about the Hall effect, one important effect related to the semiconductors or the conductors, and why to study this particular effect, that answer also I am going to give you at the last. Okay, so Hall effect. Yes.
मॅम, ते तुम्ही म्हटलं होतं एनर्जी बँड गॅप मध्ये तो गॅप असतो, तर तो गॅप कितीचा असतो नेमकं, म्हणजे ते त्याच्यावर म्हणजे कितीचा गॅप असतो?
That if we talk about intrinsic semiconductor, then of course it will have different value. If we talk about the N type or P type semiconductors, the gap will have different range. Okay, so standard ranges
डिपेंडंट
are,
असतं का मॅम त्याच्यावर म्हणजे ते व्हॅलन्स बँड जो असतो ना खालचा त्याच्यावर डिपेंड असतं का ते
it depends
त्यानुसार
upon the material. If we talk about the silicon with arsenic doping, you will get different band gap, and that's why you people have performed the experiment. In that experiment, there was a germanium. So with the help of germanium, a diode is formed. So that particular diode, whatever is the energy band gap, I think that was in the range of say something 5 electron volt or something. So it depends upon the material, which material you are using, and depending upon that there will be an energy band gap. Of course, for metals there is a fixed range. For semiconductors a fixed range is there, and for insulators a particular range is mentioned. So it totally depends upon the materials. Even suppose you are having the say germanium in combination with arsenic, of course you will get different properties. If you are having the combination of arsenic with silicon, of course you will get different properties. Okay, so that is totally dependent upon the materials that you are selecting for the study. Okay, so Hall effect is given by the scientist Edwin H. Hall in 1879, and basically it talks about the behavior of semiconductors in electrical field and in a magnetic field. Okay, so quickly I'll go to the diagram. So here one diagram is provided. I'll suggest you people quickly draw this particular diagram, because if you understand the diagram, then only you will understand the what is Hall effect. Okay, so I'll give you 2 minutes and then we will have the discussion. It is actually your bad luck, because whatever practicals are there, you have performed that practicals in a online mode, or for some practicals we have used the simulation kind of thing. But if the offline conduct was there, then of course we are having the instrument with which one can measure the Hall effect. Okay, so that facility is available at our college, but due to pandemic and all, we have not conducted that practical in an actual manner. Okay, so Hall effect is the important thing whenever you form any kinds of semiconductor, or if you are having any combination or composite of conductor and semiconductor, then you should know how are the charge carriers, how is the movement of charge carriers. So all that things one can get with the help of Hall effect. Okay. So draw the diagram. Once you done with the drawing, put done in the chat box. Okay, so Runali and Sanika are saying that they have done with the diagram. Okay, so to understand this particular Hall effect, I'll suggest you people try to have any three-dimensional object in your hand. Okay, that may be your mobile, no problem, because already you people have drawn the diagram. So that drawing is in front of you. Now I'll suggest take your mobile in front of your eyes. Okay, so and that will be in the vertical direction or horizontal direction, whatever it may be. Hold your mobile in such a manner that whatever is the charging point, that will not be in front of you, okay, that will have say 90-degree angle with you. So like this, in a horizontal direction you have to hold your mobile, okay. So in front of your eyes, the keys related to volume increase and volume down will be there. At 90-degree angle there will be the charging point. On the upper side, upper portion will be there, okay. So hope you people have hold the mobile in a horizontal direction in front of your eyes. Now you have to imagine that whatever is the charging point, from charging point and from the upper side you have connected a wire, okay, or some arrangement is done so that you can measure the voltage over there, or electrical field you have to apply through these ends. Like you can see in the diagram, primary current is provided at these two ends, okay. So whatever is the diagram, like that you have to hold your mobile, and whatever are the corrections of your battery, so in that manner you people are going to apply the current to that semiconductors, okay. So here we are considering your mobile as a semiconductor, okay, and for that semiconductor you people are going to apply the electric field in such a manner that from the charging point to upper side there will be a connection. So same you can see in the diagram which is provided on the screen. So this is the semiconductor plate, and from one end to other end battery is connected across it, okay. And next to that, in the same position you people are going to apply the magnetic field, which will be from the downward to upward side, okay. So from down to up there is magnetic field which is shown over here with one black colored arrow, and B is written over there. Next to that, from other sides, okay, one side we have taken in order to apply the voltage. From down to up down movement is having the up down position is having the magnetic field. Then whatever are the rest portions of that conductor, that plate, if you connect one voltmeter across it, then you will find that some amount of voltage is generated in between these two plates, okay. With the application of primary current and by the application of magnetic field, in case of semiconductors, basically what happens, whatever are the charge carriers present in the semiconductor, they get separated on the both the ends. Like here, now you people can put your mobile aside, okay. So whatever we have done, say this is a semiconductor plate, we have applied one battery over here. From this portion and this portion a battery is connected across it, and a voltmeter is connected from these two sides, this side and this side. A battery is connected here. I'll take the pen so that you people can see, okay. So here you can see this portion and this portion, a battery is connected across it. So here you can see a battery is given, then whatever are the rest portion, this one and this one. So across this you can see a voltmeter is connected, okay. So voltmeter you can see, and from this direction there is application of magnetic field, so that is also visible over here. So due to this combination, if this combination is given, a magnetic field and electric field is applied to semiconductors, then in semiconductor what happens, whatever are the charge carriers, they get separated, okay. So this magnetic force which is applicable on the electrons, that have the movement of electrons towards one side of that plate, and whatever are the positively charged carriers, they move towards the other plate of the semiconductors, and due to this potential difference gets generated over there, and that potential difference or that potential is measured with the help of voltmeter, which is across like this. Okay, so this is the Hall effect. Upon application of primary current and magnetic field, you can have the potential difference in case of semiconductors. So this is termed as the Hall effect, and whatever is potential generated over here, that is termed as the Hall potential. Okay. Now the most important thing, why to perform this Hall effect and where we need to use this Hall effect. Like up to this point what we have seen, semiconductors are there on room temperature. Semiconductors are having the they shows the insulating behavior. Upon addition of impurity, you can have the conduction through the semiconductors. Okay, now if you add impurity, then you should know what is the status of charge carriers in particular formed semiconductors. So in order to get the status related to charge carriers, you need to apply the Hall effect. Okay, so basically the Hall effect is used to calculate charge carrier mobility of the material. They are used to calculate charge carrier concentration of the material. Okay, so in any material, what amount of charge carriers are there, how is the status of their mobility, that can be determined with the help of Hall effect. Okay, so that's why Hall effect is important when you study any kinds of semiconductors. Okay, so like, just a second. I would like to show you this image again. See, if more amount of charge carriers are there, then of course whatever is the voltage generated over here, that will be high. If less amount of charge carriers are there, then voltage that you can get over here, that will be low. So there are some formulas. With the help of that formulae, you can have the carrier concentration calculation and you can have the mobility related calculation. So these kinds of studies are highly important when you are forming some kinds of semiconducting devices like diode or transistors. And if you are adding some, like one thing that we people have seen in case of nuclear physics, that is accelerator. So at that point I have mentioned, in order to increase the charge carrier concentration of any material, you can have the irradiation of the material. Irradiation means having the interaction of external small particles into the material. So if you are having the increase in charge carrier concentration by some accelerating technique, at that moment only this Hall effect plays an important role in order to give you the status of charge carriers present in the material at that moment. Okay, another thing that is related to mobility. Have you heard the word charge carrier mobility? What is charge carrier mobility?
Yes,
Any idea? Okay, so what it means? We know when charge carriers have the movement, then only we can have the conduction through the materials. If charge carriers are stationary, then of course there will not be any conduction. Okay, so how the charge carriers are moving, what is their ability of movement, that is termed as the charge carrier mobility. Okay, so in order to have the conduction properties of any material, you have to calculate charge carrier mobility. So this is the case related to Hall effect. Is there any doubt up to this?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So the next point with respect to this semiconductor chapter, what we have seen up to this time, what are the semiconductors, what is the classification. To apply the semiconductors into any kind of device, we should know some properties of the material. That properties one can calculate with the help of Hall effect. Now we have to see the application of this semiconductor area. So one of the application is provided on the screen, that are nothing but the solar cell. Now solar cell is very well known term for we people, because you might have seen several solar cells in your society, maybe in your school, or maybe you are using some solar cells or solar panels at your home. Okay, so solar cells are nothing but the photovoltaic devices basically that converts light energy into electrical energy, and that's why in a home or in a offices, in some hostels, in some colleges, to have the generation of electricity, solar panels are used. Okay, so you people might have seen such kind of structures. So these are nothing but the solar panels which are used to generate the electricity. Okay, so photovoltaic means they accept the light energy and they generates the electricity, they generates the voltage over there. Okay, so by accepting light energy, electricity is generated with the help of solar cells. Now of course, as I said, this is the well-known structure of solar panels that we people have seen so many times. The basic thing is how these structures are formed. So to have such kind of solar panels, one has to use different kinds of semiconductors. So here you can see the solar panel is formed with the help of N-type and P-type semiconductors. So P-type semiconductor in contact with N-type semiconductor, we know they form the PN junction. So that PN junction is the important factor as far as solar cells are concerned. So whenever light gets incident on this solar panel or this combination of P-type and N-type semiconductor, of course it have some interaction with this junction, and due to the accepted light or due to the light that is having incidence on this junction, of course there will be change in the junction properties, and due to that there will be generation of current. Okay, so like this, by accepting the light energy, this P and N type junction, they creates the current over there, and that is the main working principle of solar cells. Okay. So, and of course you people know that the conditions, that environmental condition that we are having right now. So for such kind of, for say rainy season or in winter season, we can't have the high amount of output from the solar cells because light energy is not having that much power. So of course, whenever we are saying that upon incidence of this sunlight over the junction, it creates a current. So the junction properties, they are highly dependent upon the intensity of light incident upon it. Okay, so if the like the environmental conditions we are having right now, there is no high amount of solar energy present in the environment, so in that case whatever is the output, that will be of small magnitude. And in case of summer season, of course the radiations are having high intensity. So in case of summer, of course we can get high amount of efficiency through the solar cells. Okay, so here the case is explained. The solar cells consist of N-type semiconductor and P-type semiconductor, and by the combination of that two, PN junction is created. Okay, and most of the time the surface of that solar panel is covered with anti-reflection coating in order to have high amount of reflection, because here you people have heard the word anti-reflection coating in unit number 1. So same purpose is applied over here, is there. Like we want high amount of transmission, we want high amount of light should get towards the PN junction, and less amount of reflection is expected at this moment. That's why whatever are the solar panels, they are covered with some anti-reflection coating. Okay, so high amount of light will incident upon the PN junction, it will break the PN junction, and of course after breaking down of PN junction we will get current through the system. Okay, and solar energy will be applicable to have the electricity generation in such a manner. Okay, so this is about the solar cell. You people know the advantages and disadvantages of solar cell. So this is one application of the semiconducting materials. This is about today's lecture. If you are having some doubts related to the contents, you may ask. We are having 5 minutes, we will have the discussion. Okay, so any doubt from your side? Any doubt?
No, ma'am.
If no doubts are there, then here it ends the semiconductors portion. A small portion from unit number 5 is remaining, that we will see in the Saturday's lecture. Okay, so Saturday we are going to talk about the magnetic materials. Tomorrow, of course, at 11 you people are going to have the lecture, as we are having the lectures on every Friday. So the topic for tomorrow's lecture will be the laser. Laser is the portion from unit number 6. So tomorrow we will try to cover that portion, and of course that session will be through the YouTube live. So YouTube live will be the platform for tomorrow's lecture. Okay. So this is all about the contents. Quickly I'll take the attendance and then you people may leave the meeting. Just a second. Just a second. Roll number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Roll number 10. Is roll number 10 is present? 11.
Present, ma'am.
Okay. Roll number 12. Roll number 14.
Ma'am, he was present just left for the shape.
Okay. Then 16. Yash, I think. Yash is 16. Roll number 16. 17. Roll number 22. Okay, so absent roll numbers are 10, 12, 16, 17 and 22. Okay, so we'll meet tomorrow at 11, and of course some doubts are there, so you may note down the doubts. Hopefully this Saturday we will try to complete the entire portion of engineering physics, means 100% portion from my side will get completed on this upcoming Saturday, and of course I am saying that portion is going to be completed from my side. So if you are having some doubts, some discussion you want to do related to any topic, of course that we will do in the next week. Okay, so thank you very much. You people may leave the meeting.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
Have a good day, ma'am.
Same to you, Siddhi. Bye.
Bye, ma'am.